The Utah Utes are going to do a lot more than just take care of business against Cal Poly on Saturday.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning into our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. You can visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. My name is JT Wistrcill, and I am excited to talk about another Utah football game this week. We're going to be previewing Cal Poly against Utah, specifically offering up predictions, what I think the top Utah Utes are going to do, including, is Isaac Wilson going to play? Bird Ficklin, what about the backup QBs? And also just talk about the week that was in the week ahead that is going to be in the Big 12. Locked On Oklahoma State's Cody Stovall stops by with me to preview all the action coming up in our favorite conference. But first, as I mentioned, I want to dive into what I think is going to be a just big game for Utah. And I shouldn't even say a big game. I should say a big performance from Utah. We had Bryson Lester of the Big Sky Conference on the show yesterday, and he did a great job of laying out why Utah has not blown out Big Sky teams in the past. But I got a bad feeling in this one if I'm the Mustangs. I really think this one's going to get ugly. I think Utah's going to win big, and I think it's a bad combination of factors for Cal Poly here. When you are an FCS group of 5, whatever it may be, trying to take down a P4 team, it really helps if you can be the more physical team and outmuscle them. I watched Duke and Elon actually end up playing a decently close game because Elon had some strength in the trenches, and Duke couldn't run the ball. They had 34 rushing yards at halftime, so halfway through the third quarter, that's 24-17. Elon made it a game. But unfortunately, Utah ain't no Duke. And also, I don't think Cal Poly is in any way, shape, or form in Elon either. I like Cal Poly. They won the first game, right? 41-17, but they were picked 11th out of 12th in the Big Sky preseason poll, right? They are coming off a 3-8 season. And, QB, the quarterback Ty, he was named the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week. He put up good numbers. Bryson mentioned yesterday the receiver that they have that I think is capable of making some plays, but it's just too much. I think Utah is Utah's the top 15 in the country, I said. And I really think, and this team with this offense, I really have a feeling this one's going to get ugly. And I think we're going to see massive days out of several Utah Utes. So what am I predicting for Utah? Well, let's start with Devon Dampier. I actually think Devon Dampier is going to throw for a lot of yards in this one and not rush for as many yards. I have him throwing for 230 passing yards. And before you all say I'm crazy, Cam Rising last year had over 230 passing yards in this game. I think the difference in this one for Utah, well, actually the same thing, like a lot of Cam Rising's passing yards, right, were Deshaun Stanley just being faster than everyone and making plays. I think Utah's just got a lot of fast athletes that Utah's going to exploit in this one. So I think it'll be a lot of yards after catch, but Dampier, I still expect to get it done through the air. 60 yards rushing because he's still Devon Dampier. There's going to be times where it's just, he makes it look easy. I think Dampier is going to have 5 total touchdowns in this game. 4 through the air and 1 rushing touchdown. And I do think he'll be out by halftime. So I think a very similar performance to what we saw from Cam Rising in Utah last year. I think Utah's offense is just going to look unstoppable because they are playing not a lower level FCS team, but a FCS team that is of the bottom of the Big Sky standings, as I mentioned too. So I do think Utah has a lot of success there. I think Utah, not surprisingly as well, has a lot of success on the ground. I actually think Naquari Rogers, who got a lot of carries last week as the UCLA got out of hand, I think he's going to have over 100 yards and a touchdown this one. I think he's going to break off a run and make something happen. Wayshawn Parker will be good to me, 50 yards rushing, but because this one gets ugly quick, I just don't think they're going to give Parker as many carries. We saw them rest Parker as the game went on last week, use Rogers a little more, but even Rogers eventually earned a rest. That's why I think Bryce Duke, the Virginia Tech Old Dominion transfer, he's going to get some run in the second half. I have him with 40 yards rushing and a touchdown. Also, we have Hunter Andrews, I think, is going to get some carries in this one. And I even have Daniel Bray, who I think is taking a red shirt this year, a true freshman for Utah, who's up on campus now. I think he's going to get in the end zone late, kind of like we saw Jalen Glover get in the end zone his freshman year against Weber State. So I see Utah having a ton of success on the ground, but we also mentioned through the air. So who are going to be the recipients of this aerial success? One of Dalton Kincaid's first ever really good early games was against Weber State. He had 2 touchdowns, 60, 80 something yards. He went off in that game, and little did we know what he was going to become, because it wasn't until a year later that he really became a star in that 22 season. This was in the 21 season that he was just had a really good game there. So I think that Tobias Merriweather is going to have an incredible game. This is going to be his Dalton Kincaid type breakout game. Whittingham mentioned wanting to get him more involved. This is the opportunity to do it. There's a size and strength difference, P4 FCS level. And we are going to see that on full display with Tobias Merriweather going to work, in my opinion. His length, his speed, his athleticism. I just don't think Cal Poly is going to be able to cover him. I think Dampier is going to give Merriweather more opportunities. And I have Tobias going for 60 catches, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think one of those is a long score from 40 yards out. And the other one, I should go 30 yards out, give myself a little more of a cushion. And the other one will be just like you got mossed in the end zone, basically throw it up to him. But I really think this is the game that Utah gets Tobias Merriweather going and he makes some stuff happen. I was struggled with predicting what Smith Snowden is going to do in this game because I'm just very curious of how much offense we're going to see Smith Snowden play. I mean, this is the type of game where if you're trying to ease his workload on the season, you don't need Smith Snowden on offense to win this game. So to me, I do think they'll get him some touches and some reps though. So I still had him going for 40 yards in this one. He had 50 last week, but some of those with the rushing yards factored in, he actually ended up over 60. I'm going to go 40 total yards. So I'll include in if he gets some little random handoffs there, but nowhere near am I expecting the same workload for Smith Snowden. Let him rest up these next few weeks and get him ready for what could be a heavy workload against Texas Tech. One of the wide receivers that did not make a catch in week 1 that we were expecting to have a big year is Larry Simmons, the Southern Miss transfer. He did not record a catch. He stepped out of bounds one time, and then caught a ball, but obviously you can't step out of bounds and come back in on your own. So that's a flag. And then in the end zone, he slipped in what would have been a touchdown, but the route running is there. They're just growing the chemistry together. I have Larry Simmons getting going in this one too. Another guy I think Utah wants to emphasize. Let's get him and Devon Dampier going in a game, build their connection in game. So when we get to some of these tougher games, those guys have made some plays together on the field of action. And I think that's what we see from Simmons. I think he's going to go for 60 yards and a touchdown in this one, just as not Tobias Merriweather in terms of size, but just his speed, his quickness. I think he's going to be too much for the Mustangs corners. Also have Ryan Davis getting in the end zone. He's going to have 40 yards receiving to me. We saw him and Devon Dampier almost hook up on a long pass last week, but I just do think at some point in this game, Ryan Davis finds his way into the end zone. I'm going to go with Dallin Bentley to have a little bit less of a workload. Love that he started in the reveal video, by the way, and so impressed with what Dallin Bentley has been able to do on the season now. But I'm going to say he has 2 catches in this game for 20 yards. I just don't think we see a lot of him because I think this one gets out of hand and we see a lot more long touchdowns and not as much check downs to the tight end and check downs and like quick passes to Smith Snowden. I think Utah's going to look to take some shots in this game, which is why I have JJ Buchanan being a little more impactful. I think he's a little bit more of explosive of a pass catcher. The true freshman tight end has bought it and made the transformation, and he's passed up guys like Otto T on the depth chart already. So large credit to him, right? I think JJ Buchanan's going to catch a short pass and he's going to break a couple tackles and get him for a long touchdown. I think he's going to have over 50 receiving yards in this game, and I could see him, honestly, maybe even more than Merriweather if they leave him in a little bit longer to continue to get him reps in games as he's still growing into a strong P4 player. I could see him being Utah's leading receiver if he plays into the second half. Speaking of the second half, Nate Johnson is a guy that got some run when the game got out of hand last week. I see Utah going to him a lot in the second half of this one. I think he's going to be using a similar Smith Snowden way as Utah's going to emphasize not airing it out and risking incompletions, but more those short passes to stay in bounds, chew up the clock, and get this one over with, because I do think it's going to be over from a competitive standpoint pretty quick. I have Utah. Utah, last time they played, not a Big Sky team, because last year against Southern Utah, they didn't play a Big Sky team, but Utah did have over 500 total yards against, Southern Utah is now a Big Sky team. It's confusing. But anyways, they had over 500 total yards last year. I have them doing that again, actually getting even a little bit more. I have them going for 200 rushing yards and 350 passing yards in this game against Cal Poly. So how much do I think Utah is going to win by? And what do I think the other quarterbacks for Utah are going to do? That's what we're going to discuss in one moment.
With the game day right around the corner, make sure that you have food coming to you. It's almost that time. And it's also time to look back and crown an MVP. Who delivered the most for the Cowboys or the Utes this previous weekend? I think you can easily say Devon Dampier for the Utes, and we've got to give it to Wendell Gregory on the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. These players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it all down. For Locked On Utes and Locked On Oklahoma State, Wendell Gregory, Devon Dampier, whomever you choose, they both delivered in a very big way. This is the time for you to feel the pressure and come through in the biggest moments, just like these fellas just did, without hesitation, without delay, make the magic happen. And just like Wendell Gregory and Devon Dampier delivered for the Utes and the Cowboys, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays for you. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday on your order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to 250 bones, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 1118. Make sure that you get the best delivered to your doorstep, and that is, of course, DoorDash. And you might as well get stocked up on your next mobile awesome sauce mobile, which is going to be with Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves every time they drive. That's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to tailor make the driving experience just for you so you can feel more alive. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IAHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. As an athlete focused on every single detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather, you can feel it in the moment when you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and the standard all-wheel drive in almost every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes everyday driving feel more special. It's the small details that make the biggest differences and the biggest plays. And just like that, there's more to every player. There's also more to every single Mazda vehicle. Get with Mazda today so you can move and also be moved by Mazda.
All righty. Appreciate my good friend Cody Stovall for helping me out with those ad reads. And as I mentioned, you guys are going to get to hear from Cody and me at the end of the episode as we're going to do our Big 12 week game predictions. Oklahoma State's got a big one going up against Oregon. But speaking of predictions, let's stay on topic and continue to predict what Utah is going to do in their game against Cal Poly. And let's go to the quarterbacks now. So I have Isaac Wilson getting in this game. A reminder, when Devon Dampier's helmet did pop off, they did put in Isaac Wilson first. I still believe he is QB2. Kyle Whittingham said as much. I think they just want to continue to get Bird Ficklin reps and allow him to grow. And I do think they will preserve Bird's red shirt. That's my theory. So I do think get in this game, get in against Wyoming, and then we'll see if we ever see Bird again on the season. Reminder, if Utah does make a bowl game, which I think they will, you can play in the bowl game and not have any of that 4-game eligibility count towards your red shirt. So looking at Wilson, I have him getting in the second half, and I have him doing well. He did okay last year when he got in the second half with opportunities, 7 for 11, 74 yards. Or actually, I shouldn't say okay because he actually did toss 2 interceptions, but I just do think he's grown. He's gotten better. He should have never had to play his first year, and I think that improvement is going to allow him to excel in this one. I think Utah will run the ball a lot with him in, hence why I see Naquan Rogers, Bryce Duke, whatever Utah is thinking in the second half. Maybe we won't even see much of Rogers in the second half. That'll be interesting, but I just see that Utah running the ball a lot, I see Wilson only having 40 yards and a touchdown, but I do think he'll look good. He'll look comfortable running the offense, and I can already see myself on this weekend's post-game show, which we are going to be back, by the way. We'll be live for another post-game show as soon as the action wraps up, so make sure you guys head over to Locked On Utes as soon as the game ends. I only see Wilson playing in the third quarter because then I think it's going to be Bird Ficklin time, and I do think you want to give Wilson some more in-game reps, allow him to grow and continue to develop, as if there is ever a Dampier injury, Wilson will be the guy. But Bird Ficklin also needs those reps to continue to grow and develop, and I think he's going to look strong. I see him going for 80 yards. In fact, I could see him getting in. I know I said Wilson gets the third. I could see them giving Wilson a lot of the third, but even if he leads a touchdown drive or two, I could see them taking him out, and that's Ficklin the rest of the way. And I have Ficklin going for 2 total touchdowns. One he's going to run in, and one he's going to throw in. I do think Utah will let Ficklin air it out a little bit as they just continue to want to get him those live reps and opportunities in game. I think the freshman's dynamic dual threat abilities are going to be another thing that the Mustangs struggle to track down. So I do have all 3 Utah quarterbacks getting in this game, and all 3 of them looking good, with us feeling as good as we felt in the last couple of years about the Utah backup quarterback position, potentially, even though I shouldn't say that because 2 years ago, Bryson Barnes was actually a good backup. Utah only lost to the best teams, but I think we'll be feeling good about Wilson, good about Ficklin, much better than we did this room a season ago. So, okay, what about the defenses then? What are they going to do? Well, for the defenses, I actually have Trey Reynolds as Utah's leading tackler. Lander, I said would lead Utah in tackles last week. Lander made me look good, and he was able to. To me, Lander won't play as much in this one, so I'm actually going to go with Trey Reynolds to lead Utah in tackles with 8. And I really liked what I saw from Trey Reynolds. I thought he's just grown, he's developed, he's got a better feel for the ball, right? Continuing to work on. I don't think he missed too many tackles last week, maybe only 1 or 2, but he's just continuing to grow and get better there. His feel is better, his strength is better. He's just developed the instincts, being able to get get the interception, even though Nico threw it right to him. I liked what I saw from Trey Reynolds. I think he sees a lot of run this game as the first linebacker off the bench. I also see Jonathan Hall making a lot of plays in this game. This is the kind of game to me where Jonathan Hall's, his speed, size, athleticism at the linebacker spot is a lot for the Mustangs to deal with. I think he makes several TFLs in this game. I have him with 6 tackles, living in the backfield, just wreaking havoc on the Mustangs in mostly the first half and a little bit of run in the second half. Then Nate Ritchie, I think we're going to see a bounce back game from Nate Ritchie. I'm going to go Nate Ritchie to have 5 tackles. That Utah is going to make the Mustangs try and air it out still. They're going to stay aggressive with their blitzing style. Even though we mentioned the Mustangs QB doing some positive things last week, I do think Utah's going to have Ritchie in the box blitzing, trying to cause some chaos and create and put their offense under duress to create panic and cause confusion. Speaking of panic, nothing like a pass rush to do that. I have a different Utah sack leader in this game than the last one. Previously, it was John Henry Daly, who I do have him getting home with a sack. John Henry Daly led Utah in sacks. I predicted Fano too, and Fano did look really good as well. He had a sack, batted a ball down. I do have Fano getting a sack, but I think it's a nice opportunity for Utah to rest those top 2 guys and let some of the depth cook. And I think that's Paul Fitzgerald. I loved what I saw from him last week. I think he gets after it. I see Cash Dillon getting home with a sack. Kafusi will add another sack to his total. He walked the UCLA center right back into Nico's lap last week. I see Kafusi getting home. Cash Dillon, like his explosiveness. But Paul Fitzgerald, I'm going to go the guy who gets home with not 1, but 2 sacks for the Utah football team. Really like what Fitzgerald is showing as well. A guy with 8 sacks at Utah State 2 years ago. Last year, played seldom, but will get more opportunities this season already. I like his pass rush prowess, his hands, his explosiveness. I think he's a guy Utah's going to continue to grow and bring along. So predicted tackles, sacks. How about pick sixes? That's right. I think Utah's going to extend their incredible consecutive seasons with a pick 6 in this one. And I am going to go with Scooby Davis to get the pick 6. I think Cal Poly's going to throw it up. Scooby Davis is going to bring it in, and I think he takes it home to add as an exclamation mark for what a fantastic half of football this is going to be for Utah football. Also have Jonathan Hall getting an interception this one. Once again, I think the Mustangs are going to do some things, right? But I don't have them getting over 150 yards of total offense. A reminder, UCLA's offense just last week was abysmal. They could not do really anything against Utah. Nico only had 136 passing yards. They had 84 rushing yards. This is a worst offense. There's not Nico. There's not Javian Thomas. There's not Anthony Woods. There's not Mikey Matthews here. There are solid, Cal Poly has some solid guys. I think they're going to actually be a decent FCS offense, but you are playing a juggernaut of a Utah Big 12 team. And I think that is going to be too much for Cal Poly. And that's kind of the theme of this, right? I just think this Utah team, their size, their strength, their speed is going to be too much. In the past, as Bryson did a good job noting yesterday, Utah hasn't always blown out Utah hasn't always blown out Big Sky teams, right? You look back at Weber State 31-7 in 21, Weber State 40-17, Idaho 31-0, Weber State in 2018 41-10, North Dakota 37-16. Utah hasn't always blown out Big Sky teams, but a lot of those teams on there I do believe are better than this Cal Poly team. I also believe this Utah offense is one of the best we've seen in quite some time. We've seen Utah throw up 70 against Southern Utah before, and I think that's what they're going to do here. I have Utah winning this game 70-6. I think even Utah's backups and the offense that Jason Beck runs, even a more simplistic version of it, is still going to be too much for Cal Poly. Utah is too big. They are too strong. They're going to make guys they're going to force missed tackles in this game. And to me, that will end up being the difference. And it's why I have Utah winning this game in dominant fashion, starting 2-0, and then kind of sit back while the rest of the Big 12 gets into some tough games here. Dampier only plays in the first half. I have the entire starting offense really only playing in the first half, unless, a JJ Buchanan, a Kawhi Rogers, and technically those guys aren't starters because I would say Wayshawn Parker, Dallin Bentley are the starters, but you'll still see those guys on the field with the first team offense. I could see some of those guys in the second half, but like I mentioned, I think we're going to see a lot of those third string and red shirt guys get in this game. I think it gets ugly. I think it gets out of hand. Cal Poly is capable of doing some things and moving the chains a little bit, but this Utah defense and offense, they're too good. To me, both units are in the top 6 of the Big 12. Utah's defense may actually end up being better than it was last year. They may make me eat crow for saying they would take a step back. This will be a game they definitely, I think, continue to build on. Last week, they only held UCLA to 10 points per game. I don't see there's a world where Cal Poly can because the backups get in getting more than 10, but I don't think it's a likely one. I see Utah taking care of business, and I see Cal Poly not having answers to anything Utah does. Utah's size, their speed, their strength, and the fact that they have an offense like this is going to be too much. 70-10, massive Utah win, and we get to see the depth in some of the recruits and the future of Utah football on display. Speaking of the future, what's the future of the Big 12 look like? Well, this week, there's some interesting games. Me and Cody Stovall of Locked On Oklahoma State sit down together and predict this week in the Big 12 in one moment.
But first, we have to remind all you fine folks out here, do not waste money. Don't just throw it away. You're going to have to fill up your gas tank at some point in time, anywho, so you might as well get some monetary assistance with it. Oklahoma State fans, Utah fans, if you're paying for gas and you're not getting anything in return, you're screwing the pooch here. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or the Google Play Store right now and start earning cash back at the pump today. Use our limited time promo code FOOTBALL to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year by simply doing what you have to do anyways. Next time you're driving by the pump, just envision what it could be like if you could get a little bit of this thing back. Is the juice worth the squeeze? It will be if you have Upside. Make sure that you have the most opportunities in savings when you download the free Upside app today. It felt too good to be true, right, JT? I think you could probably agree on that one. But my wife uses it on a consistent basis. So don't let this offer drive right by you. Download the free Upside app now and use our promo code FOOTBALL for a limited 25 cents back per gallon bonus. That is promo code FOOTBALL. Offers may vary by user and location. Make sure that you head on over to upside.com for terms and conditions to get the money back that you already got to spend anyways. As Lee Corson would say, not so fast, my friends, because FanDuel has something to tell you, too, before we get to some of the fun stuff and picks. NFL season is here. College football season is obviously here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for both kickoffs with can't-miss offers. Specifically, whenever you're talking about right now, new customers can get $5 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet is a winner. You'll get 300 bones back if your first $5 bet is a winner. Make sure that you make every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It is quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Saturdays and Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet to get that 300 bones back in bonus bets when you are a winner. All right, buddy. The Big 12 is in action this weekend. It's not just the Cowboys. It's not just Cal Poly taking on the Utes. So we'll talk about some of the slate here. I'm going to go ahead and say Cowboys just don't quite have enough to hang for the entire four quarters. My prediction has been 34-21. Before we get to the other Big 12 teams, how much does Devon Dampier and Utah country absolutely demolish Cal Poly?
Oh, what did I have it earlier? I think this Utah offense was legit. So even with the backups, I think they're going crazy. I have it 70-6.
Oh my land!
Utah beat Southern Utah 73-10 or something like that a couple years ago. I see a similar thing here. Would love to be wrong. Shout out Big Sky. I see Utah big. Do I get to say Oklahoma State now, or do I go later on that?
Yeah. Shoot, Goose.
Okay. I would love the Cowboys to win. Seriously, massive win for the Big 12. Oregon Tears. I love swimming in those as I've gotten to do in the past, but I do think Oregon being at home, Dante Moore, the talent in the trenches, and just the talent NIL wise, honestly, will be the difference. I'll take Oregon to win 34-24. I do think you guys make this interesting. This is an Oregon team under Dan Lanning. It's taking them time to round into form. I don't see that 28.5 spread. Could it happen? Sure, but I'm not predicting that.
JT, it's up to 29.5. How disrespectful. Jeez. I feel like Vegas is viewing Oklahoma State as an FCS team, a really good FCS team. I don't know. All right, so the rest of the Big 12 slate, we talked about Sawyer Robertson. Baylor put not only egg on their face, but they put egg on the Big 12's face. We needed that W. So now what we really need is for them to come out and take SMU to school. I think it is going to happen. I don't think there's any way Baylor has the same difficulty which doing, I don't know what we're supposed to do with football, which is tackle people. So if they simply clean that up, they should be able to get a W here. I know Jennings is a bad mamma jamma at quarterback, and you have to find a way to stop him. But Baylor has to get it done. And I think that they do get it done. I think it'll be a close one, maybe a little bit of a defensive game. Give me 24-21. Baylor Burrs. What are your thoughts on this matchup, buddy?
They have to win it in a way because it's like 0-2, but it doesn't count against Big 12 play. And that's where I think they're going to be very lucky that it doesn't, because I don't have them winning this game. I saw a lot of concerning things from that defense. I think it takes time to correct that. I would love to see Baylor win this game. If it was at the Bears again, I would roll with Baylor. I think it's tough to win on the road in college football. The things they struggled with last week, tackling Jackson Arnold, Jennings is elusive. I'm concerned about how quickly they can turn that around and fix that. And I will take SMU to win 28-24. I think Sawyer Robertson is a good day, but that's a good SMU defense. A reminder, they held Penn State to 14 first half points in the Nittany Lions house last year. I was high on Baylor coming into this year. They were maybe the biggest disappointment in week one for me. Unfortunately, they're disappointing me this week again too. I'm taking SMU here.
Even though they have the quarterback with the stupidest number in college football history, BYU should not have any problems with Stanford, because Stanford just got took behind the woodshed and taught a thing or seven by a Big 12 school, right? So that should be a game that's not even close. Fair here.
I like Andrew Luck. I like Frank Wright. They're a joke right now. They're the worst P4 team. They are an absolute disaster. BYU, it's a joke that they get to call this a P4 win. BYU rolls.
So now we'll get to some of the interesting ones here. You mentioned it a little bit off air. Arizona State, Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
The Sun Devils should be more than enough to get this thing done, but this is year 2 under Jeff Levy. This is Blake Shapen's opportunity to get redemption because he got booted out of the Big 12 conference. You'd imagine he had this one circled. Yeah, it's not the same Big 12 school he left, but Sawyer Robertson beating a Big 12 school after a 2-win season has to be Blake Shapen, very high up on his priority list. It's not going to be easy, but I do think the Sun Devils get it done. Let's see, score. I think it'll be somewhat close. Give me Arizona State 31, Mississippi State 21. 10-point victory for the Sun Devils. What do you think?
I like it. I think ASU wins, but I do think this is a game. I think Mississippi State looks at this one like, hey, we might not be an SEC contender, but let's go have a chance to knock off a Big 12 contender at our place. I didn't love what I saw from ASU last week. I think they're still trying to hey, we lost our heartbeat in Scatterboo last year. We still got to figure all this out. To me, ASU wins. It's ugly. I'm going to go 23-17.
Okay. I don't know about you. I didn't get to see 3/4 of the game because ESPN Plus decided to drop the ball tremendously in that one. All right, we'll move on. We alluded to this one a little bit earlier. Kansas State, takes on the Army Black Knights. Are they better than Army? Yes. Do they have more talent than Army? Yes. But playing a triple option attack with 2 days of real practice is a problem every single year for somebody. And the way that Kansas State's kind of reeling right now, they lose the opener in Ireland. Avery Johnson has some winners and losers in the boxing ring or the streets of Ireland. That not great. Dylan Edwards leaves the program. Not great. They've got a freshman running back. They barely beat North Dakota and had to come back in the last couple minutes to win against North Dakota. They need this to stop the bleeding, but it's not going to be easy. I do think that they get it done, but I'll be honest with you. There's a little part of me that does lean towards Army can probably pull this off. This is a get right moment for Chris Kleiman and the Wildcats. I think they get it done, but I think it's going to be close. I'm thinking maybe 2017 for the Wildcats. What say you here, sir?
Yeah, Kansas State, I know they won, but they were still the second most disappointing team in the Big 12 to me last week. That was it was rough. I mean, the fact that you were struggling that much with an FCS team, I don't care that you're coming back from a cross-country flight. You take care of business in that game an Iowa State was able to. I don't love what I'm seeing. I'd love to predict a blowout. They'll win, but I'm going to go I'll go 34-24. They win, but it's one of those they pull away late, and we are just what is going on with everyone's it's not like the majority of people preseason were really liking Kansas State in the national media, being the guy who was for Utah and saw how much the national media went for them last year. That doesn't always work out so well. Not loving what I'm seeing out of the Wildcats.
All right, we got 2 left. The Jalen Daniels moment is about to arrive as the border war is back into play with KU taking on Mizzou. I am very confident in Rock Chalk Jayhawk country. I know Mizzou is supposed to have a good team, right? They have a very high NIL earning roster, but I do think that this version of KU, if Jalen Daniels continues to play this way with Highshaw being the veteran presence in the backfield, the defense looks to be improved. I like former Cowboy Lyric Rawls. I like what Tommy Dunn Jr. is doing on the defensive line. Give me Rock Chalk Jayhawk country. 38-34 KU.
Cody, I know Utah made it look easy last week when they went on the road and beat a P4 team, but it is very hard for P4 teams to go on the road and beat other P4 teams. So I do think this is a very good game. I think Missouri is still going to be a solid out this year. They had the Penn State backup quarterback who transferred down there too. I do like Drinkowitz, even if I hate his playoff proposal ideas. I think Missouri makes this a game. I think it's back and forth. Jalen Daniels is the different. I said I'm pumping the brakes on Jalen Daniels till I see him against this game,
right.
But I do think he balls out, and I'm going to take Kansas to win it 37-30.
And then I think most of us would agree the creme de la creme is Iowa State versus Iowa because of the matchup, the eyeballs, all of that fun stuff. And you're right. You mentioned it. Iowa's been screaming at the moon that we have an offense now. We have a quarterback now. We can move the ball down the field now. I believe it when I see it. We know that Iowa State can because they've proven it. And that's kind of one of the biggest reasons I give Rocco Beck a little bit of extra benefit here. He lost 2 bona fide, certified NFL wide receivers. I thought that was going to be an issue. It doesn't look like it's necessarily going to be. I think Iowa State wins this very, very comfortably. Give me the Cyclones 24-14.
I think I was the most wrong on Iowa State entering the season, and I wasn't even that crazy low on them. I think I had them like 6 or 7, but I already feel like this is a team with a great opportunity to get to Arlington at the end of the year. I love that gaming in Ireland. I thought Kansas State was going to win it, and I was so impressed with the grit, the toughness, how Rocco Beck looks, that offense coming together, improving. Hanson at running back. I really like that defense they have on the other side of the ball too. I believe in Matt Campbell. I believe in this team. It's very hard to win in Kinnick Stadium. Well, it's a good thing they don't have to go there. Instead, they get them in their building, their house. I do agree. I think Iowa State wins this one. I think all this talk of Iowa's offense is going to be inaccurate, and instead we're going to see a lot more the punter being the star than the quarterback. I am going to take the Cyclones to win this one 33-17.
Atta baby, JT. See, there's hope for Utah fans still yet to not poo-poo on the Big 12 all the time.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. A reminder, we will be going live once again. I don't know if it will be immediately after the game, but pretty close to that. We will be going live yet again on Locked On Utes, talking about what I expect to be a dominant Utah performance against the Cal Poly Mustangs. We're taking your questions, talk about the biggest storylines from the game, everything that happened. Make sure you guys join us on Locked On Utes then. That's going to do it for our show. We'll see you after the game. As always, go Utes.